And also, I believe possibly joining online will be Councillor Devine Geller is online, and possibly Councillor Catherine Kelly as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. Not seeing any further indications in the chamber or online. And I just say that online we're being joined by Councillor Errol Thompson, Councillor Mark Buchanan, and Councillor Rushing Devine Gallagher. And I remind members of just the protocol of keeping your cameras on at all times during the meeting. All right, thank you very much. Okay, now I just move on to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 11th of February 2025. I've already done that. And at this stage, just members, if you have any declarations of interest to raise, just raise them now. Not seeing any indications. Obviously, if see. Oh yes, Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. 6.2, the correspondence as an employee of DFI, and I have to leave the meeting shortly after 8 o'clock, so apologies for that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's no worries. Thank you very much. Okay, and I see Councillor Green.
I was looking back on the minutes. I think was it the 10th of September 2024. I made a proposal around the seating arrangements of how the Sinn Féin party is seated, and it was actioned on that minutes as far as no for to relook at the seating plan here, because we're very split as a party in the seating arrangements. But it never happened. I was wondering, was there any reason why it never happened, or why we're still separated?
John, do you have any?
Chair, I'll look into it and see what the outcome of that is. And I just need to refresh ourselves, I suppose, in relation to the approved minutes and come back to you.
All right. Okay. Before we move on to the reports, actually, I should just say, we had a fantastic reception there. Councillor Gannon was there along with a number of elected representatives just for Earn Integrated College. It was fantastic to have the young people in the building, and it's great to sort of have this venue be used to sort of help mark their 30th anniversary as a school. So wonderful to see that in the town hall. But moving on then, just to the formal items of business, we'll start with 4.1, which is to consider the report and draft response to DFE notification of intention to grant 5 mineral prospecting licenses. Sinead.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of background then, members, the Council was notified by DFE on the 8th of January of the intention to award 5 mineral prospecting licenses located either partially or wholly within Fermanagh District Council area. And then, members, we had alerted you to that correspondence at our RNC committee back in January. And just to note, the consultation period on the licenses opened on the 13th of January, and then it will close on the 4th of April. So there's quite a number of documents relating to the 5 applications and the consultation process, and they are all within or on the DFE website. But I suppose just for ease of reference then, the various documents in terms of application form and all of the supporting documents then have been merged, and they're attached then as one appendix for each mineral prospecting licence, and they're set out then at appendices 2 to 6 attached to the report. And then an overview of the licence site area, a summary of the work programme, and then a draft response is then contained within appendix 1 for consideration. So in terms of key issues then, I suppose, as we said, there's a number of applications within, either located partially or wholly within the District Council area. The Department have advised that the objective of the consultation is to ensure that it publishes its intention to grant the mineral prospecting licenses and to provide stakeholders and the general public with an opportunity to submit comments. They've said it'll help ensure that DFE receives a wide range of views and then can make an informed decision on the granting or not of the licence, or in any additional terms and conditions that should be included in the licence. And then just to note that Section 11 5 of the Minerals Development Act requires DFE to consider all representations made to it within the specified time frame. And after the consultation period is closed, DFE will consider the comments received, and then once they do that, they'll make a decision on whether or not to grant the licences. DFE advised that a summary of all the documents received during the consultation process will then be uploaded and published onto their website. We've provided some information just there in terms of each application, and I'll look at that in further detail when I get to Appendix 1. And then at paragraphs 2 to 7, that really sets, 2.7 to 2.11 really sets out a summary of the work programme. And then just to note then that the draft response is contained in Appendix 1. So members, if you're content then, I'll just take us to Appendix 1. So Appendix 1 really sets out, I suppose, a glossary of terms, because we've referred to quite a number of acronyms within the consultation response itself. We've set out at Section 1 of Appendix 1 a summary of the work programme. And then at Section 2, what we've done is we've set out an overview really of the licence areas for each site. So we've really set out, I suppose, the portion of the lands within the boundary of FODC, so whether they fall wholly or partially within our district. And then we have set out, I suppose, the context in terms of whether there are, like, for example, AONB, special countryside area, or area of high scenic value that's relevant to those particular licence areas. So that's set out for each of the 5. And then the main part of the appendix then is part 3, which is our suggested draft response. So we're essentially saying we welcome the opportunity to comment on the notice of intention, but at the outset we're really saying that we want to set out our formal opposition to all 5 licence applications, and we're urging the department to reject the submissions for a number of detailed reasons that we have set out within the report. You'll note there we said that we consider the applications to be contrary to a number of policies within our plan strategy. You'll also note there at page 8 then of Appendix 1 that we've set out just some concerns about, I suppose, the legislation and the regime in terms of the licensing process. We've also gone on then to set out some concerns around what we've referred to as the inadequacy of the information that has been provided, including the environmental information. We feel that in the absence of information regarding, for example, the detailed methods of investigation proposed, details of the invasive works and how the environmental impact of the proposed methods has been assessed, that it isn't really possible for interested parties to have a full understanding of the proposed works. And we've gone on then to explain that in particular Council is concerned that the full programme of works have been redacted from the application form, so essentially we don't have the full detail. So we've set out further detail there in terms of absence of information, particularly around environmental information, and also in the context of the Climate Change Act. We've also then gone on to note at page 10 just that the fact that if the licences are granted, we've noted that they're for a period of 6 years, but that the application only sets out a programme of work for 2 years. And then we've concluded the suggested draft response really setting out why we consider we have concerns in relation to that. So members, in relation to the report then itself and the recommendation, it's recommended that the Council endorses the draft response to the Department for Economy notification of its intention to grant 5 mineral prospecting licences as outlined at Section 3 of Appendix 1.
Okay, thank you very much, Sinead. Let's start with Councillor Withers.
Yeah, Gar Margaret County, and thank you, Chair, and thanks to Sinead for the report and the staff and drafting that response. So I'll propose a recommendation and welcome the draft response outlined opposing the granting of the mineral licences. The application includes zones that are designated as areas of outstanding natural beauty, such as sperrins, special areas of conservation, areas of special scientific interest, and special countryside areas. And therefore, I have many concerns about the granting of these applications on environmental grounds. I also note the proposals are contrary to our own local development plan 2030. And as I've said in previous meetings, the legislation managing awarding of these licences is outdated, flawed, and simply not fit for purpose. We therefore need to see a review of how these licences are managed. And I know we had sought an update previously on where the department was at in terms of reviewing that. I'm not sure if we've got a response to that or not, but maybe we can get an update on that tonight. I presume we haven't. And if that's the case, then we just could follow that up as well, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, a couple of questions, please. Can I ask the Director, regarding the mineral safeguarding in relation to the development plan, mineral safeguard was not carried out. during the plan strategy stage. Therefore, will mineral safeguarding be carried out during the policy plan stage? And can you provide an update on that process, please? You know, we're obviously happy to take metals from other countries for our need. So, are we going to take some responsibility ourselves and utilise the resources that are available to us in a sensible and regulated manner while benefiting from the jobs and incomes that could be received from this? I ask this question because there seems to be a lot of heads being buried in the sand amid an increasing demand of minerals and metals. Thank you.
Do you want to take that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of mineral safeguarding and the local policies plan, I suppose just we're working through process in relation to the local policies plan at the minute. So we have, I suppose we have progressed a number of aspects of that process, but there's still quite a bit of work to do in that. So I'm happy to come back to the member directly on that specific piece around mineral safeguarding, but there's still work to do in terms of the local policies plan and getting it to a draft process stage.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Thanks, Chair, and I'd like to agree with everything that Councillor Withers said. One of these prospecting licences has been granted or is going to be granted in Ayrn East area, mostly in the area where I live, around Brooke I have heard nobody in my area coming out in favour of this. I've only heard total opposition to it, and I would agree with them. So I would like to put my opposition on record of granting these licences, and I would be very determined that these aren't issued. The department should listen to the people. They should listen to the local people, and just answer Councillor Warrington what he said. Are we going to start basically producing our own minerals? Well, no, definitely, as the man says, not in my back door.
Councillor Green, are you seconding that then, or yeah? Okay. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to support the recommendations as proposed by the councillors behind me there. I think part of this is, as Councillor Green has said, is communities are making their voice quite clearly heard on this, that they're not in favour of these applications. And we as a council have our corporate position, and I'm happy to be supporting them. Obviously, the damage to the landscape and natural environment. I was just looking at one of them, and it just happened to be that first one, which is in Mid Tyrone. But they mentioned similarities to a deposit outside Michigan, and they dug so deep there that the hole is 500 metres below sea level, an open pit, and that's the type of thing that they're potentially talking about here, given that that's the comparison they've made, which would be devastating to the environment and the landscape. This isn't small scale. This is big scale, and the communities have been very clear on it. So happy to support the recommendation, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Withers, briefly.
Yes, Chair, thanks for that. No, I've already been ready. Just briefly to respond to Councillor Warrington there and his remarks about us being wanting to take minerals from other countries and other parts of the world. There's no hypocrisy over here. Any exploitation of other countries, particularly by the global north, in terms of taking resources from other countries, is not welcome either. So just to make that point, Chair, thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any additional indications either online or in the chamber. I have a proposer and I have a seconder for that, as well as also looking to get an update on some of those correspondence as well. Are we agreed? Okay. So am I getting the sense that everyone has agreed with the exception of the Ulster Unionist grouping.
Chair,
Councillor Thompson?
yeah, please let me in. Just on behalf of our group, we will be abstaining on this one. Thank you.
That's right. Okay, no, that's no worries. Okay, so I think, members, that is carried with the Ulster Unionist Party voting against and the DUP abstaining. But we're content? Okay, thank you. Councillor Donnelly?
I just asked, Chair, what is the position in relation to dissenting? Surely it's for, against, or abstain. I think that we were told before that was, you can't take a dissenting position. You either are for something or against it, or you abstain. Just the terminology to say I want to dissent from that, so you want to vote against it.
Yeah.
Just want to be clear, that's the same thing as voting against. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Just that terminology, it can be confusing.
Yes, I think that's the case. Yeah, okay. Right. Okay. And then we're going to move on then to item 4.2, which is to consider the report on business case assessment paper B.
Thank you, Chair. So just members, we were back in March 2024, the council approved its revised options and appraisal policy, and the policy then sets out the internal assessment processes associated with business cases and appraisals. So the purpose of this report then is to consider one business case then for decision, and then to note one business case. And the copies of both business cases then have obviously then been uploaded to the decision time portal for members' information. So in terms then of the first business case, so this business case outlines a case for capping the landfill site at Dramee Waste Management Facility. Dramee was developed and opened by Fermanagh District Council back in 2004 and was originally designed to manage domestic, municipal, commercial and industrial waste within the Fermanagh, the legacy Fermanagh District Council area. And Dramee is the largest of the council's facilities, providing the active landfill and then also providing the recycling centre and then also the waste transfer station. So as we know, all landfill sites, they have a limited capacity, and when the capacity is reached, then they need to be decommissioned safely and an alternative waste processing mechanism sought. So in terms of, I suppose, the strict legislative regulations that we operate within in terms of the landfill site and protection of the environment, then the council must close the site in an appropriate fashion. So this involves construction of a landfill cap to protect the site and then to implement a plan to manage gas emissions and leachate generated during the degradation of the waste at the site. So it is to be noted that during the development of the business case, the waste transfer station was successfully opened, and that was back in 18th of November 2024. So in that context then, all the waste is currently being deposited into the transfer station and sent for RDF via external waste contractors, and therefore transportation of waste to the landfill has been stopped to ensure that the options that were outlined within the business case were not compromised through continued landfilling and potential changing of landfill levels at the site. So the council now has the opportunity to permanently cease the use of a landfill site for active landfilling before the maximum capacity is met. And whilst the finished ground profile approved in the original planning permission allowed the council to fill to a different profile, which would allow us to fill for another 2 years, we have obtained supplemental planning permission, which allows us then to fill to a lower level and close it sooner. So that lower level and closing it earlier then allows us to really reduce the environmental impacts of the waste going to landfill and really to maximise the opportunity for enhanced district recycling performance as a result. So the business case aims to close the site imminently under the chosen option and to cap it appropriately so the council can demonstrate the regulatory compliance while it's also being cost effective. The proposal involves capping the site with a flat profile on top, and that then allows us to develop a wetland system as part of that finished landfill site. The wetland will really manage rainfall runoff, it'll treat leachate from the site, and it'll do so in an environmentally sustainable manner, and it really will support increased biodiversity in the area. And it's a method that has been successfully implemented at the Tullyvar site, which is jointly managed by Fermanagh and Mid Ulster. So the proposed project ensures that we meet our legal obligations with regard to the closure and capping and our statutory obligations in terms of waste management. And once we then would develop the site with the wetland profile, that really means then that the leachate from the site can be treated to an acceptable level through the wetlands, and then it would be possible to discharge to the local watercourse. So you'll see there we've set out the indicative budget for the project. In terms of the funding status, the project is scheduled to be completed in the financial year 25-26, and budget exists within the current capital programme for 25-26 to complete the work. Then in terms of the comments, we're saying that approval of the business case is recommended as the project aligns with the Council's strategic goals and the directive objectives, whilst also being the most cost-effective option. And then just to move on then to the second business case within the report, this relates to Castle Park Leisure Centre. And the business case outlines a case for boiler replacement and building management system upgrade at Castle Park. So by way of background then, one of the two current boilers, oil boilers, had broken down beyond repair, and then the remaining boiler is really at end of life. And also the building management system is outdated with software which really can't any longer be supported. So the project will see the replacement of the two current oil boilers, two LPG boilers, and an upgrade to the building management system. And ultimately this will reduce carbon emissions and future-proof the plant room for adaptation to natural gas. And again, we've set out the budget for the project, and the status of that was that the business case was approved by the Capital Programme Management Board at the start of February. So in terms then of the recommendations of the report members, it is recommended that the Council approves the business case detailed at section 2.3 of the report and notes the business case detailed at section 2.4 of the report.
Okay, thank you very much, Sinead. I'm seeing Councillor Rainey.
Oppose the adoption of the recommendation at item 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you very much. Not seeing any indications either in the chamber or online. If there's no further contribution, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, Chair, sorry about that. I'm happy to second Councillor Rooney there.
Okay.
Thank
And
you,
enough,
Chair.
we'll hear. If there's no further comments, then are we agreed? Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on then to item 4.3, which is to consider report on various local economic development initiatives, paper C.
Thank you, Chair. So members, the purpose of this report is to seek approval from members to participate in a joint application for the Northern Ireland Entrepreneurship Support Service, which is more commonly known as the Go Succeed Service, for funding from UK Shared Prosperity Fund for the 25-26 financial year. And the Northern Ireland Entrepreneurship Support Service has received funding previously covering the period from 2023 to the end of this financial year in 2025. So by way, I suppose, of key issues and background then, under the support and local business theme of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government has confirmed a financial allocation in the region of 9.2 million for the 25-26 financial year to support the delivery of the service, which includes then an allocation for business grants subject to eligibility criteria. And it's just to note then that that funding allocation would represent an 8% reduction in funding from the previous year. So they have now issued the formal commission to Belfast City Council, who are the lead council on behalf of the 11 councils, to submit an application to the fund. The application is due for submission as soon as possible and must include a signed match funding form from each council. The match funding sets out the council's contribution of 165,000, which would come then from the economic development budget for 25-26. And officers across 11 councils have been working collectively to identify any improvements that would enhance the service in the new financial year. And we've also just set out some background there in terms of really the role of the Go Succeed service and how successful it has been in the current period. So just then, in terms of the recommendation members, it's recommended that the council agrees to participate in the submission of a collaborative council application for the Entrepreneur Support Services and supports the signing by the Chief Executive of a match funding form.
Okay, thank you very much, Sinead. We're going to start with Councillor Thompson online.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Director McAvoy for taking us through that report. There's some really good work goes on there with Go Succeed and right across the board. And I think the collaboration and partnership working with the other 10 councils across Northern Ireland is a good way of moving forward. I'm happy to go to the recommendation and propose accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to second the recommendations. It's a very good programme which supports local businesses across the district, so very happy to support the recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. Wonder could I ask our Director for the future maybe to prepare a note on the strength of the business support scheme that exists, for example, in Donegal. Recently, we visited the CoLab at Letterkenny ATU, and Patsy Donaghy, who showed us around, kept making reference to the stimulating effect, the stimulus effect that a particular scheme had for the development of businesses in Donegal, and he said it was a game changer. So I was thinking of Go Succeed when I was there, that's our closest equivalent. But if we could have a compare and contrast, what is on offer to local businesses, entrepreneurs in Donegal and our council area, just so that we might lobby then in turn DFE in future for enhanced support for our local businesses. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, good enough. That's grand, it just be incorporated. Yeah, okay, good enough. Okay, I'm not seeing any further indications. Yeah, are we agreed with that proposal as seconded and just with those extra comments and ideas from Councillor McElduff included? We agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to Regeneration and Planning Director Report 5.1, which is to note the report on the Sperrins Partnership update.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a report in relation to our Sperrins Partnership project, and it's probably a familiar report in terms of previous updates we have provided to members. So members will be aware that the Sperrins Partnership project's collaboration between our own council, Cosby Coast and Glens, Derry City Strabane, and Mid Ulster Council. Members will also recall that there was previous funding had been secured from DAERA to allow for the development of the Sperrins AONB management plan. And that's a process that's ongoing at the minute. We had the consultation exercise that was then, the outcome of that was delivered back in February and then in August time. And the next phase then of the project delivery really is to convene the two working groups to develop the 5-year action plan. And expressions of interest from a broad range of sectors and groups have been sought over the last number of months. And membership to the working groups is now complete. And council officers have been involved in the various stages of the project. In terms of the development of the management plan, ultimately all of the work that's going on will culminate then with a draft management plan being prepared by the end of November 2025. And members will be kept up to date then with the outworkings of the action planning working groups that are meeting, and then also in relation to any of the information in relation to the development of the actual management plan. In terms of the rest of the report then, we've set out some other key pieces of information. One is around, I suppose, the Sperrin AONB consultation that I referred to. It yielded a high level of response from a range of stakeholders, but one aspect that could be developed further really is in relation to youth engagement. And I suppose in the context of them being the future guardians of the landscape and young people's views really playing a critical role in the process. So with that in mind, then the Sperrins Partnership have agreed to hold a dedicated event to ensure the youth voice is heard. And that event is actually scheduled to take place tomorrow, the 12th of March, in the Silver Birch Hotel in Omagh. Just to note then, further updates in the report, the partnership have been exploring and I suppose sourcing other external funding opportunities to really help and complement the AONB management plan, and those are set out in the report. And then also just to update members that the Sperrin Partnership in collaboration with Sport NI and the 4 partner councils had secured funding through the outdoor partnership to appoint an officer in terms of an outdoor activity development officer for the Sperrins, and that was agreed and put in place back in October 2023. And the Sperrins Outdoor Activity Officer, really the role is to build capacity and identify training and education needs within the outdoor sports and recreation across the Sperrin communities. You'll note there then that we have set out some of the work that the Sperrins Outdoor Activities Development Officer has been working on across the Sperrins, and that includes coach education, volunteering, and also organisational sustainability. I'd also just wanted to take the opportunity as part of this update just to update members that we've also been contacted by Fáilte Ireland just recently to ask that Fermanagh Oma join the Upper Shannon, Shannon Erne and the Border implementation group, which relates directly then to their destination and experience development plan. So it will be our intention then to appoint an officer to join that group on behalf of the council, and then to keep members informed of the progress of that group with updates directly through to this committee. So in terms then of the recommendation of the report, it's recommended that the council notes the update relating to the Sperrins Partnership activity.
Okay, thank you very much, Sinead. I'm not seeing any indications online or in the chamber, so if we're content with that, see Councillor Rennie proposing, and do we have a seconder? I see Councillor McColgan. All right, all agreed? All agreed. Thank you very much. Going to move on then to correspondence 6.1, and we're starting with correspondence from the Enniskillen Museum.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If we can take the first two pieces together, please. Just a request for light up for VE Day on the 8th of May and for VJ Day on the 15th of August of 2025.
Okay. See Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Director Boyle for that. I'm happy to propose that the buildings are lit up as requested on both days. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Rainey is seconding that. Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay. Sorry, seconded by Councillor Barton. Okay. All agreed. And you guys, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Barton, you're happy to note. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Opposed to note, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Grand. Moving on then to item 6.2, which is the note of correspondence dated the 12th of February 2025 from DFI regarding brightness of vehicle headlights.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, very comprehensive response from the Department for Infrastructure in relation to the regulation regarding vehicle headlight brightness. They do point out that the responsibility of this lies with the British Department for Transport, but they've gone on then to highlight a number of ways in which there are interactions with that department in reducing glare and the various reports and initiatives that are taking place in the near future in relation to it. You will note, members, that they've recently awarded the Transport Research Laboratory a research contract to investigate the factors that cause glare, and that report is due in the spring of this year. And that the Department for Infrastructure will monitor that progress of the research and advise on any implications for road users once the findings have been published. So, Chair, for noting.
Okay. Councillor Thompson, are you looking in on this item? You're muted, Councillor Thompson.
Apologies. No, I'm prepared to note the correspondence.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the noting of the correspondence, but I'd like to welcome the detailed and comprehensive response that we've got. It's very useful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And not seeing any further indications, although Councillor Thompson, I should just say your hand is still up, so if you're able to lower it, handy enough. Okay, then I think we're all agreed. All agreed. Thank you very much. And moving on then to item 6.3, which is to note correspondence from the Northern Ireland Environment Agency regarding World Bank Area of Special Scientific Interest Site Monitoring.
And Chair, it is just for noting.
Okay. Note proposed by Councillor Gannon and Councillor Donnelly.
Second the noting. Thank you, Chair.
Seconded. Okay, all agreed. All agreed. Okay. Moving on then to note and correspondence dated the 25th of February 2025 from DAERA regarding agricultural liaison group queries.
Thank you, Chair. And this is also correspondence for noting. Ultimately, it's really a holding response in reply to a letter we'd issued to them in relation to basalt spreading and decarbonisation. So they've confirmed that they will have an update to us ahead of our next agricultural liaison group meeting, which we will then bring back to the RNC committee at April, hopefully.
Okay. And seeing any, okay, proposed by Councillor Green to note and seconded by Councillor Gannon. All agreed? Good job. Okay. Moving on then to item 6.5, which is to note the correspondence dated the 3rd of March 2025 from the Planning and Water Appeals Commission regarding conjoined public inquiries into the Delray gold mine applications.
Thank you, Chair. So the PAC have corresponded back to us in relation to a letter we'd issued to them. We'd asked that they provide clarification regarding the consideration of the PAC to the virtual attendance of participants and the live streaming of inquiry proceedings, given the decision to facilitate neither at the recent public inquiry. So members, you'll note that the letter has come back to us, and ultimately they've said that the inquiry has filled facilities to allow interested parties and members of the public to attend the inquiry in person in the normal way, and they've gone on then to say there are currently no facilities to stream or record the inquiry sessions, nor facilitate virtual attendance for participants.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not seeing any indications. Can I get a proposer then to note? Councillor Warrington noting, and can I get a seconder? Councillor McCardle. All agreed? All agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, and we don't have any other correspondence? Yeah, grand. Okay. Moving on then to any urgent and relevant business. I have a little bit of business of my own, but I've been contacted by Councillor Gannon, and also we have some business from the table here as well. So, Councillor Gannon, if you want to start.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to give a wee touch of background on this and be as quick as possible. So a number of preschools have had issues with their pupil allocation numbers for funded preschool places. So in 2024, the Minister launched the preschool standardisation programme. And probably unsurprisingly for Minister Given, it's caused issues rather than solving problems. So essentially the result of this programme and the criteria it has put in place for these funded places is that many preschools have had their places, or number of places, reduced from previous years, and they can't meet their demand, and parents will either miss out on a preschool place at all, or the preschools will have to take a financial hit by taking on children that they don't have a funded place for. Obviously, this is a big issue, and it has particularly seemed to hit rural areas across Fermanagh and Omagh. I know of 4 preschools that have been in contact with myself. I don't want to give the specific locations of this at the minute because those preschools still need to talk to parents, talk to staff, and try and reassure everyone involved. So my proposal is going to be a bit more generic around the specifications and the rules put in place by the standardisation programme. So the problem that I can see is one of the conditions. It's that if you have another facility within 5 miles of you, which is essentially a 10-mile diameter, you cannot get your numbers increased to take your first preferences, even if you have capacity or have took these numbers previously. So just to give an illustrative example of that, if you have 30 parents put you down as first preference, you have capacity to take, say, 50, but many places have been allocated, say, 20. Those 10 that have first preferences that there is capacity for don't get a place there. They're being sent somewhere else, and in particular for rural areas, this gives no consideration to geography. So to give you kind of a geography example of it, and it's just purely random, let's say it was Ballinamallard. Let's say your preschool there was impacted where you had a reduced number. You wouldn't be able to increase your numbers. You wouldn't be able to take your first preferences until all in Urbanistown and a lot of Enniskillen places are filled too, even though those parents wouldn't want to go to those places and probably would avail of some other facility rather than a funded place. So that's just to put it into context for you, Chair. So as well as that, there's no consideration for fluctuations in age groups, which happens in rural areas. You might get a small intake one year and a larger intake the next. So that's another issue. But I would like us to write to the Minister, because this policy, it's endangering the financial sustainability of preschool places. Like the standardisation programme was meant to make them more viable, but this has put many preschools in a tenuous position financially. Some may be able to take the hit and take extra on, but others won't. and it involves kids going outside their community as well. So I would be proposing, Chair, that we write to the Minister, the Chief Executive EA, and the Preschool Education Group in EA, to ask that the policy around the 5 miles is removed, and rural communities in particular, that they are allowed to access their first choice if they wish and if the venue has capacity for it, and that those places be funded fully rather than leaving preschools in the lurch. Thank you.
Okay. And just given your proposal includes the EA, I'll just declare an interest at this stage, just given as a board member. Okay, we've heard that proposal from Councillor Gannon. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Green, we agreed? We're agreed. Thank you very much. John, do you want to deal with those items of business now?
Yeah, Chair, just in the last number of days, we have two pieces of correspondence. One from Tourism NI in relation to our Mid-South West and a learning journey which they have organised for the city, for all city and growth deals, to take place on the 27th and 28th of March. It is, along in association with the visitor experiences and attractions, a visit to Fingal County Council, Limerick County Council and the Cliffs of Moher, and to meet and discuss how business is done, and they have offered one place to an officer, and it's just to get approval, Chair, for an officer to attend that. The second one is in relation to an invite for Greenways and Active Travel Conference in Limerick, which has been organised through the Department of Transport and Fáilte Ireland. And it is also on the 26th and 27th of March. And it's just also, Chair, to get approval for one member, one officer to attend that conference. You'll be aware that we are actively involved in the development of a number of greenways, especially the Sligo Tennis Skilling Greenway. And I think it would be a useful conference for the officer to attend.
Okay. Can we get a proposer for both those attendances? Yeah, Councillor McColgan and Councillor Donnelly. We're happy with that? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, before we close, just a little bit of business from myself, and this is probably something that most of the Omagh councillors will have been contacted about already. I was contacted by Wave Trauma Centre, who, as you'll imagine, have been pretty actively engaged with supporting witnesses who have been contributing to the Omagh bombing public inquiry. And I was contacted because, in light of a number of the contributions that were made in the context of the inquiry, there was a fair bit of reference made to the state of Market Street Arcade. There's a fair bit of sensitivity attached to that part of the town centre on account of the fact that it was a place where a number of the injured and the dying were brought shortly after the bomb in order to keep them out of the view of photographers and the like at the time. And so there's a wish for the council to have a look at what can be done to try and make sure that the area is as clean and as respectable as possible, given the associated sensitivities. And there's also some issues raised in terms of appropriate marking of the atrocity on the 15th of August, which are points that I think the officers can perhaps take up with Wave in any future engagement. So I would just propose that that be done, and that we look at sort of what work can be done to help deal with sort of cleaning of that general area. So I'll make that a proposal. And I see Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for raising that issue. I did take the opportunity, as in the letter, I did take the opportunity of going and meeting people at the Wave offices and had a discussion with them. And I've also discussed it with Director McAvoy and Kieran McCrory as well, to see what way we move forward. Obviously, the cleanliness issue is a big one, and everybody's aware of that particular place. It's basically hard to keep, especially over weekends and that. Maybe they have mentioned, obviously, possible pieces of art and art on the wall and that type of thing. Maybe that would enhance. I think maybe we need to have a formal meeting or get our director and the officers involved with a meeting with Wave and see where we go with that, because I'm prepared to take part on it if it's And I know there's landlords involved there as well, various businesses in that area. So I'd formally propose, Chair, if you, no, you proposed it, but I'd second it.
Okay, I'm just going to bring John into this stage.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Yeah, and Chair, as you indicated, it is a sensitive item, a sensitive area. Could I suggest maybe that officers meet with the Wave Trauma Group and indeed maybe the other organisations who represent the injured and bereaved families from that day? It is sensitivity, and members will be aware of other issues in the locality also around there. So I think the item needs to be handled very sensitively. There are certainly things I think that we can do in the short term, medium term, and long term in relation to the arcade. So if officers maybe in the first instance meet with Wave and with the other organisations, that might be a start to the conversation.
Chair.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Director Boyle, for making your contribution on that one. I think probably that's the best way forward at this stage, is for yourselves to engage with Wave and others involved, and who have been involved all over the years since the Ilma bombing of the 15th of August 1998. So I don't know if you proposed that, Chair, but I'll formally propose that happens. Maybe I'll be a seconder. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, that's no worries. Councillor Thompson, I proposed that, and I consider that formally seconded by yourself if you're agreed to those
Okay,
changes.
Yep, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, we agreed? All right, good stuff. Okay, members, thank you very much for your participation. I think that might be the shortest regen meeting I've ever chaired, so fair play to you. Here, safe home.
Safe home, the laddie. Okay.